So there's been some big updates or some big mentions and discussions from the commander brackets, so to say. Now this is not a video what I think about the commander brackets. I've already made videos about that in the past, and my opinion is I don't think it's a good idea. Or, well, I don't think it's going to achieve what they wanted to achieve. Bottom down, I like it because it's going to achieve what I want to achieve, which is a little bit weird. But in short, my suggestion would actually be to make a Magic the Gathering dating app. I think that would achieve their goal. To put it simply, imagine that you have a mobile phone and you have an app, a commander dating app, and an opponent also have one of these, and you touch QR code, you scan each other's QR code, and the app will say, you two should play games together. Or the app might say, you two should definitely not play games together. Because with some algorithm, which is something that already exists in existing dating apps that is trying to matchmake people for relationships, you can post-game tell the app that this was not a game I enjoyed, or this was a good match, you did correctly. And once the app is calculating a lot of algorithm on people, then it's going to give you a good verdict of who you should be playing against and such. This is actually kind of how things are working already in local game stores. People sit down and they play versus other people, and they realize over time who they enjoy playing with. And eventually they're going to choose to play with a certain friend group they have at the local game store and not play with another group. And then basically have different groups playing with only themselves. And that's kind of how it should work. But if you're on a big event where you basically know no one, yeah, you need a system to make people find each other and discover who they enjoy playing Magic the Gathering with. And a dating algorithm would achieve this, just like how a bracket system is also trying to achieve this. I just speculate that automatic systems is going to be less work compared to the work you need to put into in making sure that the bracket system actually functions. I just think that, yeah, you're going to get overloaded, which is... They're talking about it a little bit, but they are discussing that it is working and it's creating some form of effect, and I believe that. I truly believe that if you just imply some form of structure, there will be improvements. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's not functional. I just think there could be better methods. That's enough of this. Now we're gonna get into what we are actually going to talk about mostly inside this video, which is not going to be about the current cards inside the Game Changer list. Instead, we're going to talk about some of the other things they are discussing inside this article, such as commander cards as Rhetoric Study, Thassa's Oracle, but also about hybrid mana cost. Yeah, now let's begin with Rhetoric Study. This is a very iconic commander card, Do You Pay the One? Yeah, fun. It's baked into so many references around the format. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of jokes about Do You Pay the One? It's one of the most snowball card advantage engine in all of Commander. Yeah, kinda. Many casual games where it's played let the Rhetoric Study player run away with the game as people just cast spells into it. And yeah, that's the case in cEDH too. Give and take. At higher bracket play like cEDH, it causes huge issues. Bottom line, I would kind of agree. I have made videos about what cards I would like to see banned, and I would rather see Rhetoric Study banned over some other cards. Here's the thing though, this is a big discussion, and there's a lot of it comes down to what kind of format do you want it to be. Because if you're going to start ban Rhetoric Study, the argument that I have regarding to why you potentially should ban Rhetoric Study is the same why you should potentially ban Smothering Tide. And then you just continue hunting down those concept cards, you could say. So the question is that concept something you don't want inside this format? Currently, from my data in regards to how good Rhetoric Study is, I have 192 decks that have had Rhetoric Study in play, and 88 decks that have had Rhetoric Study in play and won the game. A total win rate from 225 games is 31.43%. And in comparison to something like a 25% win rate, yeah, it's doing good. You're winning games if you have a heuristic study. That's a statistic. That's proven with this from my data. But let's do the same thing with ad nauseum. So a lot less games, 64 games, but from that, 54.41% win rate. So if you wanna reduce the power level inside cEDH, heuristic study isn't like the one at the performing top, you could say. There are other cards that are achieving victories more than a heuristic study. So if you're evaluating like power, like how much do you win the game from a card, then it's a whole different discussion and it's a little bit tricky too. I've actually started to build a prototype to a power ranking system, which is like my version of a better bracket system, but regardless, that is going to evaluate the true power. So this deck list here that I've made a deck tech video about, this is the Splinter and Leonardo basically so far. But it does showcase some effects. So if you actually take a look at this, so we have the combination of heuristic study and Sol Ring achieving a win rate of 43.5% basically. But if we do the same thing with Undual Breach and Sol Ring, we're seeing that combo cards that leads to a victory achieve a better win rate. Who could have thought? But for example, we could compare Sol Ring together with the pair of Fierce Guardianship achieving a win rate of 38% and a power ranking in my beta attempt of 5.1. So the verdict would be that heuristic study is stronger than Fierce Guardianship, but heuristic study is weaker than Undual Breach. And from here we could start to evaluate and talk about what cards should be banned and not, depending on how we want to see it. Another way of evaluating heuristic study, how good it is with a different method, is to look at how many cards does it actually draw in general. So here we have, so I calculate how much cards heuristic study literally draws when it's been put on the stack, when it's resolved, and when it's sitting there in games on YouTube. So, for example, if the game goes to turn 1 to 5, it draws on average 9 cards. So for 3 mana, on average, you're drawing 9 cards. That is pretty good. That's really good. If you compare that to, let's say, a Wheel of Fortune, drawing you 7 cards forces you to discard your hand, and it also draws cards for your opponents. On the other hand, you get the value instantly from Wheel of Fortune, while on heuristic studies case, you're getting it later. But we could do the exact same thing with the One Ring. And here, on the same kind of turn ratio, it's drawing less. A lot less actually. To remind you, heuristic study was drawing 9 cards on average, while the One Ring is drawing almost 3 cards, you could say. However, when you're winning the game, when you have won the game with the One Ring, it has drawn 5.74 cards. So the question becomes, does it still cause huge issues? I mean, I've showcased some data, and I want to emphasize something. The power ranking system is a beta, it's like a test structure, it's a work in progress. In general, it's not the card that is like causing a player to win the most games. And if we're going to ban cards based on that, I don't think that's the reason you should ban it. I want to ban it for other reasons. I've actually talked about that in previous videos. In general, I really don't have a big opinion regarding if they should ban or not ban. Okay, I think they should maybe ban it, I think my system might be better, but let's move on. Because here we come to the other part. The bottom line question, is Commander more fun with heuristic study in it? That's a really good discussion, and now we're talking like casual players, and in the end, if people in casual think that this is being annoying, like, do you pay the one? Do you pay the one? Do you pay the one? Eventually that can be annoying. There are lots of cards they have banned in casual reasons because they were annoying, such as Nadu, Paradox Engine, and once casual players have experienced Krark Sakashima, they're gonna ban Krark, I promise. So now we get into a territory that is very strange, very weird, and very opinion-based, where is a card being annoying or not, which is going to differ from person to person, which basically means that the people who have the loudest voice will get their opinions heard. This is a tough decision and discussion, but I love that we would love to hear from you. So yeah, I think that the Commander group here is on a good track of trying to achieve what they should try to basically achieve. I just hope that they move forward with caution regarding this one. Then we have Thassa's Oracle. The card is perceived in the highest bracket of Commander as a very instantaneously win in games alongside something like Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact. Correct. From what we can tell, and from competitive Commander players, it's a mixed as to if people like this or not. And I will agree. When I read comments regarding if Thassa's Oracle should be banned, there are a big group of both yes and no. So that's a tricky one. But one thing we don't have a great visibility into is how often it is showing up in more casual tables. In your bracket free or unbracket casual games, are a lot of them ending with Thassa's Oracle? We would love to know. Right now, we don't think there's enough evidence to take any action here. I actually disagree, or well, give and take. Data is very tricky, so to say. And we can definitely discuss the potential evidence. So here we have EDH Rec. Yes, let's search for, anyone can do this by the way. Asami Lady of Scrolls, Mono Blue. Let's look at her. So EDH Rec is a website that is collecting decks. So for example, Asami Lady of Scrolls has 4,254. I think this is from a combination of like Tapped Out, Arctic and Moxfield and such. So they're like collecting data on various Commander decks and looking at the percentage of, there it is, Thassa's Oracle, 52%. I am not an EDH Rec expert. I don't hang around here that much. So I don't know if they also include every cEDH deck they could get their hands on. My personal belief is that it's mostly casual decks. So this is giving you a pretty good statistical, somewhat truth-based answer of how many casual decks does include Thassa's Oracle. And 52% is pretty much. However, this is a deck that also plays, obviously, Laboratory Maniac, and your goal is to sit and draw cards with wizards. I think Thassa's Oracle should be played inside Asami Lady of Scrolls, because it's just 2 mana wizard that can tap and draw a card. And if you can eventually get your hands on Rapid Laboratory, return your Thassa's Oracle, or your Laboratory Maniac, recast it and win the match, then I think that's fine. If you have been able to sit there with Asami and just dig forever until you win, in casual, I don't know. I think that should be okay, but casual players could object. But let's look at Ursa. Ursa Lord High Artificer, also mono blue. Here we have a lot more, 16,000 decks. And if we scroll down until we find, oh here, by the way, Rhetoric Study. Not an auto include in all the Ursa decks that the EDH Rec has in their dataset. But Thassa's Oracle is down to 17%. So yeah, by the looks of it, it looks fine. I don't think you need to worry about Thassa's Oracle running around in casual games. You could obviously analyze that deeper than what I just did, but also on a spontaneous look into, I think we're safe. What is the win rate of my Thassa's Oracle actually? On cEDH games, it has appeared in 168 winning decklist, 39 losing decks. Win rate is around 81.16% from 201 total games. Pretty good. It's causing you to win games. If we actually, however, look at my win con table, this is from 630 YouTube games in how people have won the game. From those 603 games, 79 have been with Thassa's Oracle as a finisher. This is, however, not the full truth, because sometimes, in a lot of cases, Thassa's Oracle is the finisher from an Underworld Breach Brain Freeze concept, or someone casts an Adnos, eventually leading into a Thassa's Consult victory. The same thing with Necropotence. So in order to calculate this, spontaneous calculation, 157 games have potentially been won with a Thassa's concept, so to say. By the way, we also have how many games Rhetoric Study have won the game. Now this isn't like Rhetoric Study wins the game, because Rhetoric Study can't win the game. But sometimes Rhetoric Study just draws so many cards that it is equal to have been ad nauseum. If you resolve an ad nauseum, you're drawing like 17 to 20 or more cards. Sometimes Rhetoric Study accidentally just draws you 18 cards, which is kind of equal to how much the ad naust produced. But if you look at the percentage in how many times that have happened, from 603 games, only 7, giving you some more information of like how much is Rhetoric Study producing a victory for you. While I would strongly say that it's clear that Fasa's Oracle is very key in the cEDH format, you could say. Take that information and for now do whatever you want with it. Let's move forward and talk about kitchen things, or hybrid, so to say. The idea is that hybrid is no longer a color identity on both situations. It's one or the other, meaning that, for example, deathrite shaman, as they write here, would be legal in a mono black deck, but also legal in a mono green deck. The argument is that allowing hybrid would give decks with fewer colors better tools and options to play. It allows for more playable options. And yeah, there is some truth to that. So suddenly your mono black Crick or Yawgmoth or whatever mono black commander you could think of could suddenly play deathrite shaman. And there have been a huge argument inside this game forever, mostly in casual tables, that green is too strong. Because green have Bird of Paradise, they have Land or Elf, they have the best ramp. And yeah, there is some truth to that. This is not really a problem inside cEDH, or it's not a thing in cEDH, because we play an Ancient Tomb into Arcane Signet, which is stronger than Bird of Paradise. So the artifact ramp is better than the green ramp, if you really take it to the cutthroat level. But, I mean, casual decks don't play Ancient Tomb because Ancient Tomb is extremely expensive. And that is literally taking your deck to a very competitive level, if we're gonna be honest. So to give mono black decks or non-green decks deathrite shaman could be good. But we have to talk about what is literally going to enable with some of the other hybrid cards. A very specific one is Mana Morphos. And if you're currently sitting on like 1,000 Mana Morphos, you're being lucky if this is getting legal inside RAL, because this will be an auto-include inside RAL. So RAL is reducing the casting cost of Mana Morphos by 1, making it into a ritual. This is great. When you're playing Storm, you always want every card to be increasing mana and giving you card draw at the same time. In other words, this is an auto-include, and if you would have 10, I think, or allowed to play 10 Mana Morphos, I think RAL would play 10 Mana Morphos. But it doesn't stop there. Vivi or Niter, I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry, which is something people play in casual too. So it's going to cost 2 mana, it's gonna give you 2 mana, and it's gonna draw you a card. But it's also gonna generate a Vivi trigger to deal 1 damage to all opponents and increase Vivi's power, meaning it's a ritual because you increase Vivi's power. But it's not just a ritual, it's a ramp. You're generating more mana in the future. If you have Vivi in play and the remaining cards inside your entire library is Mana Morphos, you win the game. Because you just cast Mana Morphos, drawing into another Mana Morphos, and then eventually people will die to Vivi triggers. But it doesn't stop there either. There's a cool card called Underworld Breach. You might have heard of it if you're playing cEDH. It could pop up in casual too. The core strategy with Underworld Breach is to dig through your library, fill your graveyard with random whatever cards, and then eventually sculpt a victory from the graveyard into something like a Fasa's Oracle, or it doesn't really matter in general. Mana Morphos is digging through your library and increasing your graveyard at no mana cost whatsoever. Ultimately, kinda making Mana Morphos potentially auto-include in every single Underworld Breach Grixis deck you could think of. Rogsai is gonna play it, Kefka is gonna play it. I've actually seen Kefka play Vivi, by the way, and some other decks have also played Vivi too. Thrasios Vivi is pretty good. Do recommend Thrasios Vivi for now. However, Blue Farm to Macrom, you get the point. We are basically literally boosting the power level on every Underworld Breach deck or every Red Storm deck you could think of. And is that something cEDH currently wants? Or a better phrasing, do we need that? Currently Ral is doing great. Ral technically in cEDH doesn't need boost, potentially. We will see over time how Ral's win rate sticks and continues forward. But in general, this is an upgrade Ral doesn't kinda need. So the question is, could we solve this in a different way? Now, Wizard of the Coast has the ultimate power of printing cards. Imagine that. They can make new cards for the format that could potentially upgrade certain mono-black commanders. So let's just pretend they make a new Tiny Bones that reads, at the end of your turn, if an opponent discarded a card, create a treasure token for 1 black mana. I don't think this is a great commander, but it's definitely going to help a lot of mono-black decks that are on the idea of making people discard cards. Because the Wizards of the Coast have already created a Bird of Paradise for red, Ragavan. So I think that colors should be doing what the color pie of that color is on theme with. And green are just sitting there druid-like, generating mana from chanting and doing rituals. Kinda cute and cool. While red is attacking, pillage and stealing. So I think Ragavan is on theme very beautifully, working like how a red Bird of Paradise would operate. So my hope would be that instead of like giving Mono Black a Llanowar Elf, can't we have Mono Black getting their version of how they would create Ram? Now, I don't know if this is balanced or what. I mean, Wizards of the Coast have a design team. I'm just saying, I hope that Wizards of the Coast design team can solve this problem. Now, some of you are going to say, Nadu, and things like the design team have accidentally created, there were mistakes. But hey, we can ban cards, like, it's not the end of the world if they accidentally print something that is truly busted. I mean, they did create Nadu, and the format is still alive. The world didn't end. But I think that if you suddenly just create this rule, we might need to discuss, should we ban Manamorphous? And then suddenly, we're removing Manamorphous from decks that deserve Manamorphous, that shouldn't lose Manamorphous. So it can become a little bit of a strange situation. We know that hybrid mana cost have been a long discussed thing in Commander. What do you all think? Well, those were some suggestions. My answer would be no. However, I think, or if I were these guys continuing forward with their project of this, or, I mean, hybrid mana cost is actually not something that has anything to do with the bracket system. It's like a core structure into the Commander rules in general. But if I were part of this group, or if I were trying to handle this format in this specific situation, regarding the topic of hybrid mana cost, I would try to make it democratic. Basically, in each big Magic the Gathering event, something like this one, I would conduct surveys. I would walk around and ask people and try to collect a democratic vote. If Wizard of the Coast would suddenly say 3 years from now that they have been collecting surveys, they have been collecting democratic decisions from across the world in different countries and different regions from various different players, making them literally say yes or no to hybrid mana cost being legal or not in this kind of regard. And if they would say, we have found a verdict, and whatever the verdict is, we're gonna go with that. And whatever the verdict is in this case, I would say, perfect. You have found an opinion based from the majority of people. So if 70% said, we want to legalize hybrid mana cost as not color identity determination, then I would agree with that. Because in the end, this is something of like, what do we want the cEDH format to be? And that should be decided democratically. So I really like that they're asking for feedback. And my suggestion is proceed forward slowly and collect democratic outcomes. And try to figure out what the big majority want. Because this is an opinion-based verdict, basically. You could make some arguments that this is going to potentially hurt the cEDH format. But it's up to people. I mean, I don't think that they're banning or making decisions in regards to the cEDH format. If they think that they're hurting the cEDH format by legalizing Manamorphous but making deathrite shaman available to mono black decks, I think they're gonna go with helping the mono black decks, giving them deathrite shaman by sacrificing the cEDH by giving them manamorphous. And the truth is, I don't know if this is right or wrong. Like, as once again, it's an opinion based and there's no right and wrong answer, in my opinion. Those were my small takes regarding this article, my suggestions and feedback to the group, which is probably not going to reach them because I don't think they watch my videos, but hey, it was fun. And I hope you got something out of this too. In any case, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.